I'll second the motion.
Gary Buns? Yep, we'll come up.
You don't want to salute the flag.
Yep.
Yeah, make sure it's on, Gary. Go ahead. Let's do it like the old days.
I don't know if you have to get up to
Go
the mic.
ahead. Go ahead.
This one's on? Okay. Well, what I'm here for is primarily for a lot line change. What we're doing is adding about 3/4 of an acre to one of the other pieces of land which is on my property. We have two. We're a subdivision that was done here. In fact, Tony, you part of that subdivision. Yeah. And we had approximately 10.4 acres or something that we want to take 3/4 of that and bring it on to the 3.9 acres and make it 3.80 acres. And it's a strictly lot line change. There's nothing else. There's no building involved. There's nothing. It's just an additional 3/4 of an acre to be moved. Something I should have done in the very beginning. We started to think about it. By that time, we had already did the subdivision and got approval, so we let it go.
Right.
But it's time now we want to do it.
Oh, good. Do you have a map you could show us?
Matt, we have a map, and
Yeah.
we have, well, a survey was done yesterday, day before yesterday, and it's completed. And that's exactly the way it should be.
If all of us could see it, but we kind of share a little bit.
You know, Gary, I was never really sure where you lived anyway. Where do y'all live?
Leesville Road,
Leesville Road? Okay.
right across from Amenia Sand.
Okay, I know that.
So you just stand this little piece here?
That's it. And that's just a little tad short of 3/4 of an acre. And I think the notes on top indicated what we're transferring from one to the other.
I mean, it seems pretty cut and dry, I think.
Yeah, I would say that it's exempt from secret review because it's a lot line adjustment. It appears that the area that's being transferred from one lot to the next is more than 500 feet off of the county road there, so we wouldn't require a referral to the county. So I guess the only thing you can really do is, set it down for a public hearing, hopefully at your next meeting, and see if there's any public comments. If not, then you can close the hearing and approve it.
And approve it.
Yeah.
It'd be a month from now, right?
I'm not sure going to be 2 weeks from now. I mean, we have to figure out whether or not we could do that with the notice, but sorry.
Okay.
You need a public hearing for this, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, you do, unfortunately, yeah.
What are you saying? That's fine.
So now when do we meet next, though?
June 5th. The public hearing has to be at least 2 weeks in the paper, so it's going to have to be the next meeting after June 5th,
Okay.
because it has to actually be written up and then has to go in.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll put him down on the agenda for that then?
Yes.
When would that be?
Well, June 5th is our next meeting,
Okay.
so we meet was that the first and
First and
third?
the third,
Of the,
whatever the third.
so 2 weeks after that, so what is that? The 19th?
Okay. And that's for the public hearing?
Yeah,
Or that-
yeah. And then at that point, we can just approve it after that.
whatever you say. You're the boss.
All right, you waited this long.
Yeah, that's fine,
couple
that's
of
fine,
weeks.
that's fine. Whatever, we follow whatever rules you tell us that have to be followed, that's all.
Okay.
Do you see any other issues with the drawing? Is that okay? And
Yeah, it seems okay.
looks good?
I mean,
Yeah, well, they said John Fenton had looked at it, he saw no issues.
Yeah, I don't think John has actually seen it. He saw a preliminary, but it was no different than that,
Mhm.
but maybe, a slight difference, but basically it's the same.
Okay,
Okay.
good.
I mean,
And
typically, the planning board has got the right to waive subdivision requirements, except you're not allowed to waive the public hearing requirements. So that's
Right.
what you gotta have.
Yeah,
it's legal, we gotta do it.
okay,
So right now I stand down and just follow your lead, that's all.
Right.
yes.
Nothing I have to do.
Nothing,
As far as the Mylar goes, that comes after you
Right.
folks to approve
and they
it,
sign it,
and you sign it
and then
off.
they submit it to the county.
Yeah, well, I think we have to bring it now, then.
Yeah.
I think we have to, well, I think there's
Sign all
I got a good question for you. Board of Health approval, I think I have to at least pass through their building or something. I mean, the property has already been Board of Health approved, so. But I think in the sequence of events, they're telling me anyway, that's the county is telling me that.
Yeah, that's right,
I just have to go to the Board of Health for a look-see.
that's right.
And that would be after I get an approval from you folks.
Yeah, I mean, you should, in the next month,
Yeah,
you should go to the county.
and still do that. I could do that.
And see if you can get their sign off before we issue
Okay,
approval.
I just have to show them what we're doing and then go
Yeah,
from there.
because if not, then the approval will be conditioned upon
Okay,
getting the county.
so I'll try to get the approval before.
You're not going to be able to file it in the county clerk's office until you get their stamp anyways.
That's fine. That gives me something to do in a month and a half, a month or so. All set?
Yep.
Yes.
I thank you all. Thank you.
Good to see you again.
Yeah, nice.
All right,
See you.
very nice.
Next is Saddle Ridge.
Thanks.
Sorry.
We gotta wait for-
Tony, you're going to wait for him to come back?
Should we, or?
It's up to you.
You could start, you could start it. Yeah. Yeah, you could start.
Good evening, everyone. I believe the item on the agenda that we'd like to discuss is the SPO waiver.
Yep, that sounds good to me.
Right?
I actually had a list of some other items, which I just wanted to maybe just throw out in the beginning. I think one of the things that the board would like to do tonight, if it's okay with you, is we'd like to adopt a resolution designating the board as the secret lead agency, if that's okay. The SBO waiver, and then I think we'd like to talk about the site plan application you guys submitted for the temporary tent,
Tent.
if that's okay. And then, if you wouldn't mind bringing us up to date on the workforce housing issue, since you guys have filed an application with the ZBA, it'd probably be good to talk to the planning board about what's going on with that, or at least what your thoughts are. And then, I guess, just wanted to ask, do you have any idea where the visuals stood? Got them right there. Excellent.
We sent it out to George electronically.
Okay. All right, great.
It's in draft form, so
Well, that's fine. Okay.
I asked him to review it and then get back to me tomorrow and see if we can have an online meeting to go over the details of it.
Okay. All right, that's great. And then the other thing, at least on my list, was you should have gotten all of the comments, I think, from the town's consultants, except for maybe Dr. Clemens.
No, we
Got
didn't
it?
receive Mary Ann's
Yeah, we received
formal.
Mary Ann's or Julie received draft.
Julie's
Julie,
just
or-
came in right now, so you don't have it, but I do have copies of it. Do
Okay.
you have the wireless microphone?
Yeah.
Okay. And so I have printouts of it if you'd like to review it, and I do have some printouts of Mary Ann's also.
Okay.
Okay?
So I think we have final comments from everybody. You haven't seen some of them yet, but except for Dr. Clemens, I think he's asked for an extension until maybe
He waited
Monday or
until
early next
Monday.
week.
It was helpful.
Yeah, so, and I guess I just wanted to see what you guys thought as far as what your plan was for responding to those. I know you had said you wanted to try to get responses in 2 weeks. Do you think you're still on that time frame? I know you haven't seen some of them yet, but,
Well, one of the questions we had was, do you want to submit everything at once, or, so, there's certain things like Julie asked for, individual site plans for the amenity buildings. We have those ready now, except for water and sewer. We can turn those in, so we should at least start commenting on those. I don't know if you wanted things all at once, or we can do something separately.
Huh. I know Julie's supposed to come in.
Julie
right?
should be here, so it might be just up to her discretion.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
we'll
should-
ask
we
her.
should probably
She should
ask
be here
her.
in a minute.
I mean,
Okay.
on one hand, piecemeal would be helpful, because then she could get going on it, but on the other hand, you could start getting confused. You could get a lot of different things coming in at different
Right, for all
times,
the
you
little
know?
items, we are gonna
The-
put together a document that outlines, for example, your comments, they'd all be numbered, and we'd have a response column,
Okay.
and if there was any
The
attachments
items-
to the responses, we would also have those referenced, and
Okay.
put the whole package together.
The items Mike is talking about are more clarification plans. They're not going to be formal site plan. They're not
I
in the
see.
formal site plan.
Okay.
So it's not like the lighting plan, which will be in addition to the site plan, but this was more of a plan just to clarify, to make mini sets for their review.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll only wait till Julie gets here, and we can ask her how she wants to deal with that.
Yeah, and then there was a lot of comments on your memo regarding plats and subdivision regulations and so on and so forth. Since
Right.
that's, seems like it's outside of the site plan approval process, we're hoping that we can focus on site plan application comments and MDP comments, and then, in the meantime, we'll be working on the plat, but we won't be able to turn that in 2 weeks. So that plat portion would come later.
I mean, that's fine with me. I mean, if that works better for you, obviously that would be fine with us.
Okay.
Especially since there could be changes along the way
Yeah,
that could impact,
Some of the requirements you were looking for, easements and so forth,
Yeah.
utility lines.
okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that was, you'll probably see the same comment on Julie and Mary Ann's, is that the question was with the plat. It seemed like what you guys had submitted was almost a sketch plat, and we didn't know whether or not you wanted to kind of go through that process, or if you wanted to jump right to preliminary, you could do, then a lot more information needs to be added to the preliminary plat. It'd be great if we could get it all where it's almost in a final form, because that'll save a lot of time. You do most of that work up front, but that's up to you guys whether or not you want to do that.
I think the intent of that preliminary plat was really just to give everyone the concept of how it's being
Okay.
divided, a
Okay.
clear, one sheet where you can see everything.
Yeah, I mean, it was helpful, just generated a lot of comments and stuff, but yeah, okay.
Mike, what was your comment to,
Julie?
Julie?
We wanted to submit the blow-ups of the amenity buildings. We have those ready except for the water and sewer. And we didn't want to wait until we have all the responses to all the comments. We wanted to get that to you first, if you're okay with that? Okay.
All right, so do you guys want to do the secret lead agency resolution? So I prepared that resolution, sent it to you. The resolution is entitled, Resolution Designating the Planning Board as the Secret Lead Agency for the Revised Saddle Ridge Resort Community.
Okay, how much does this have to read?
I think all you need to do is just read the class 2 resolved clauses.
Is everybody okay if I just read the
Sure.
last two, so it's about, what, these right here?
Those two on page 3, yeah.
Oh, just on page 3. Okay, hold on a sec, though. Okay, I'm going to read the resolution designating the planning board as a secret lead agency for the revised Saddle Ridge Resort Community. On page 3, now therefore be it resolved that the planning board hereby designates itself as a lead agency for the revised project under seeker, and be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution shall be filed in the town of Amena's clerk's office within 5 days after its adoption.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second the motion.
Right.
Let's read it. P. Claire,
Yes?
John Stephanopoulos,
Yes.
Nathan Roy,
Yes.
Anthony Robustelli,
Yes.
Bill Kroger,
Yes.
Would you like to discuss the workforce housing and the visuals first? Then,
It's up to you. If you want to do that, that's fine.
whatever, final ones.
We gotta go through them all anyway.
So, an update on the workforce housing. As some of you probably know, our application, when we put the application, we were applying for a fee in lieu. We have yet to hear back from the town board with regards to the calculation of fee in lieu. We've been in contact with them. They're working on trying to figure out the formula. We had done a draft of what we thought the zoning calls for. In the meantime, given that, there's been some ambiguity of which way they're gonna go, we have also researched whether it pays for us to build workforce housing. We met with the consultants and we discussed the possibility of putting it on the adjacent to where the maintenance building is located in its existing site plan. I think from the consultant's point of view, it seemed like that would work. However, because it's on that lot is zone OC, office commercial, we would need a variance or a waiver, I don't know what the right terminology is, from the CBA to allow that there. So prior to making any decisions, we're gonna go meet with the CBA, see if that's something that they would entertain. And then also, in the meantime, we're waiting from the town board. Once we get those tools, we'll be able to make a decision on what's better for us, whether it is to go build the workforce housing units ourselves, or whether it's better for the town for us to do the feed mill.
What we're looking to get is a area variance because of the amount of buildable space you can do within the OC district.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Regarding the visuals, we prepared a couple of drafts, so. Here's a book for trying to remember. We also did one on 11 by 17, so we just didn't know which size you guys wanted it. And previously we had done large sets. So we prepared one large set. And previously there were all panoramas. We've been going back and forth with George Jansky with regards to whether there should be panoramas or not. And so we've done a non-panoramas, and then we took the liberty of creating them today, just for purposes of showing them to the planning board today. So this here that's the viewpoint from the DPW, looking up.
Are we better doing that at an angle because of the camera?
No, he's got it.
Oh, you're good? Okay.
Oh, that's the county land there where the...
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we started planting some trees already. The trees are depicted at 5-year growth.
Okay.
We're actually working, they took all the fence out.
Yeah, it looks better already.
Yeah, we might be adding a couple larger trees. I think it'll look better also. But, so that's from there. As you can see, you probably see a couple of buildings through the trees on the village main.
Okay.
Then this is from Delaware Hill. This is on the right side up. We use the hedge that we spoke about in the past. As you can see, you'll probably see some of the single family. We did do phase 2.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, so we included phase 2. So you'll see some of the houses at the bottom. Most of the other houses will be all blocked by the hedge. You still get the view from the overall view. This is from up, all the way up to Delaware Hill. There's 3 points in Delaware Hill. One as you're coming down, this, if you see here on the left, this is the first pull-up. There was one right before you start turning on the right, that's the one we saw before. And then there was one on the old pull-up where DOT just put in the orange markers. So this will be from up there. Again, you'll probably see a little bit of the roof lines on the south lawn phase 2. And you'll see some of the houses on phase 2 of single-family homes. This is from Depot Hill. From Depot Hill, you'll see some of the single-family homes, and some up here, and you'll see some of the roof lines up here again.
Okay, that's coming down the hill by the horse farm there. That's the horse farm fence on the left.
Yeah, that's a couple of look at that. We used, in your book, it explains, kind of why we did the 3D modeling, and it also explained all the colors that were required. We were required to do the worst-case scenario.
Okay.
So, for example, all of these buildings here, they're shown in white. Those buildings are not intended to be in white, but there is a possibility someone could do a white or a lighter color building. So, per George James, he wanted to see worst case.
And no leaves neither.
No leaves now.
Right.
This is in the winter.
Right.
We also added all the grading. Now we have the ability, we have did we bring that sheet? If this was done, by the way, a 3D model would have been much easier. So we actually did a whole 3D model of the whole site. That whole 3D model then was included into the pictures, and so all the grading has been done there. And then we have this is what's the other point from Depot Hill. I forget what house is that.
That's
Oh, that's right.
Culvers, it was.
Yeah.
So again,
That's
you
like
see
when you
a
come
little
down
bit
from the
of the
horse
houses
farm.
through there.
When you're going at the end of the road.
And then this is from the hairpin turn at the bottom. Because it's a panorama, we couldn't put the other pictures,
Oh, okay.
but you have it in there.
Yeah.
You don't see anything because the fence blocks it.
And those are just bushes you have in there, right? It's not
No, these are
grapes
hedge.
or anything?
Okay.
No, this is hedge, so we won't be, if you're driving 44 towards Sharon, on the left, the farm that has the black and white cows, it
Yeah,
has a hedge in the front, something
Yeah.
like that, it will be probably shorter
okay.
with the horse fence. We showed this to Norm, and Norm's comment was he probably wouldn't want the pine tree close up there. That's what the current landscaping plan calls for. Because, like I said, this pine tree can grow pretty high. So as we were going back and forth, we were debating, do we put pine trees that could grow high, or do we just do a lower hedge that will block seeing the majority of the buildings, but it will still maintain the whole view and will maintain it at that height. The plants that you see in there are probably, we're going to be using evergreens. The 3D model doesn't have the ability to do an evergreen hedge. So, this is more, this looks more like a ficus, the hedge that you look in Florida. But he was trying to, give the right representation. It is given height, it is given fullness, so at least it gives you, the effect of the mitigation measures you have.
What, I think it must say in here what species of plant you plan to use for the hedge?
It is in the landscaping plan.
Okay.
It's on, I forget what issue. Oh, this is the other one. This is the balance of everything.
Which is that?
The
Oh, the balance of that 3D view, yeah.
Yeah, it's just, we
Okay.
could've-
I see.
Panorama view.
Yeah, so that's the balance of the other side.
How tall do those hedges grow, the plants that you have specified?
They can grow really high, or you can cut them short.
And
It's
shape them?
You can shape them. I think they want to keep them more natural looking, so they're not going to be a formal hedge. You'll be more, plants, as you can see, there's openings in between the plants.
Cropping out.
And then I think having the horse fence will give it a little bit more of a feel of one of some of the farms around here.
Yeah.
I think we need a waiver for the fence because it's the SBO, right?
Yeah.
So if we put the horse fence, we need a waiver of it. Do we have one more?
No.
What about the vineyard trees? Are they
We're not-
represented? Oh, that's in phase 3?
That's phase 3. We have not changed those visuals, so they shouldn't change from what was done in the past. We have
Okay.
done zero change in that whole area. So we did essentially phase 2 and phase 3. One of the questions that we had for Julie is, will we provide her some documentation as well on, we did the landscaping plans for all those lots. So the question is, given that those lots pretty much, the majority of the detail for site plan was already included in the MVP, so there's a question mark. We don't want to slow the process, but we might want to bring that in, or we bring it shortly thereafter, those two sections.
Okay, the phase two.
The south
phase
lawn
one,
and, yeah. and south lawn.
and south lawn, okay.
Because we have the visuals, the grading was already in the MVP. Some of your questions require kind of type of level. We have now, we already have the typical lots layout for landscaping. Stormwater management was done. So, and the sewer is being completed, so we might include it.
Right, and the only thing in phase 2 is the expansion of the clubhouse, right?
That we won't put in.
Okay, so that you would like to do that in phase 3 type of thing, or
No, we'll do it probably after.
phase?
Yeah, whenever we're ready. I think, part of their Discovery's build-out process is a lot driven by sales, so it is very unlikely we'll build that building for a while.
But in terms of approval, would you leave
No,
that in
because
phase 2, or
We don't have to,
you can think about
You
it?
don't have to consider anything associated with that approval, that, the reason you're going for the estate in the south one is basically general visuals anyhow, and you've done all the work. So,
Right.
other than that, it's really just the building department approval of the.
For the clubhouse, there's no grading associated or anything associated, it's just the building. The elevations we have. Is there any elevations for the building or just concept? So, I don't know, we'll see, but, we can ask the folks from Discovery. But it should be pretty straightforward.
It took us a long time to get the, part of the delay on the visuals was the original photos. We didn't have the right coordinates. So, because we're taking visuals that are so far, you know, you're looking over 1.5 miles, 2 miles in certain instances far away. If the camera position is over a foot off, it might be 300 feet. So we had to retake pictures. And even when we retook the pictures, it still took a long time to figure out, you know, the amount of trees you're clearing, the amount of trees you're not clearing, how do you input it, you know, it was pretty hard, but I must say he did an excellent job.
And you had to wait for the snow to melt, which
Yeah.
it was only about a month ago.
But I must say he did an excellent job, and we were very happy with the product we created, and hopefully George James is as well.
Adrian, can I see that? That one you're holding right there?
Yeah.
Thanks. I'll give it back.
We also have them in this size, so we didn't know if you guys wanted them in this size, or you wanted them in that size, it's fine.
This is fine.
And if you guys mind if it's broken down like this, or you'd rather see it in a panorama?
I can piece them together myself, so
It's up to you, I don't know how you guys,
I'm fine with the way it was presented here.
If you put all those together, it would be a panorama view,
Yeah, that's what we showed them there.
but it wasn't all at once. But
Like
I
this
guess if
kind
we
of
could
like
do it
this, you mean?
ourselves, then that's fine.
Well, this is,
No, that's a little
There's
something.
some-
I know, it's a 3D one, yeah.
So, no, but what we, you know, what happens is if, you know, these pictures were taken on a tripod. Essentially, they were taken 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
So you can't model on a panorama, because then the 3D model gets distorted. So you have to model each individual picture, and then you can stitch them if you want to see them stitch.
You guys have this in your office, this 3D model? Or is it just digital?
No, it's all digital.
It's all digital.
We used to have it, so in the past, we had the whole thing built on a 3D.
Yeah, that's why I was asking. Sometimes they do that.
That's how Stern did it.
I was just gonna say, the first plan, remember, that's what
Yeah.
happens.
But we didn't have, now we have it all digital. And Hart Howard, their plan was a little different. Robert Stern used to do everything on a clay model. Hart Howard, actually, they surveyed every road, came out, looked at it, and then moved it. We lost a lot of units that way. Because, you know, in their mind, if the unit is not a good unit, then they scratch it. And that was, you know, so it was, they did it more in the field than on the clay model.
But the field's better, you get real true.
I think it was actually better, because on the clay model, there's, for example, there are certain houses we moved because, you know, there were certain houses, for example, in phase 2 of the South Lawn, that we ended up moving because we wanted to save, there's some really big oak trees there. And we ended up losing a house, but we ended up keeping some of those trees. The same, there was one tree here that we wanted to save. So a lot of things like that you can't see on a 3D or a
Clay model
clay
like
model,
that,
but you
yeah.
can actually see it in the field.
Leave that one with
pretty neat looking,
Yeah.
right?
I'm not sure what the next thing is,
When we do this,
Thanks.
Do you guys want to talk about the SPO waiver next, or?
so we're gonna do it anyway, so we wanna talk, we wanna keep going with the process either way.
Well, we might as well do the SPO now, if you want
Let's
to do
get the
that.
SPO out of the way.
Okay. Did you have anything you wanted to say about it at all, or before we?
I don't know if Julie had any comments on it. I know that I don't necessarily agree with all of Dr. Clemens's comments, but he did not review the SWIP, which Julie did receive, and the stormwater management report was prepared for just the golf work. And that did go to the DEC. We currently are covered under a permit for that work. So we have a stormwater activity general permit. It was not the intention to do any of the pond work, so anything with Army Corps. The only one that we did actually submit for when we did the first golf package is that middle pond. I think it's J.
Jay. Yeah,
J.
you got
And we have
from the Army
approval
Corps
from
for
the
that,
Army
yeah.
Corps, so that's the only one that was intended to be worked on at this time.
but we will do centering.
We will be putting in another Army Corps permit for the addition of the basically just raising the edge of the Island Green Pond, just the one edge where 10 will abut against it, so that we can complete that golf hole. But other than that, the other stormwater basins were not in there, and they're not intended to be touched. It was the understanding that we would just show the entire work within the SPO, and if there were any restrictions such as the lot line adjustment area, we understand that that can't be done at this time until the MDP is approved.
So what I did for you guys is I put together an approval resolution for the SPO. And after the resolution was put together, we received comments on the SPO from Dr. Clemens and then from Julie. So I guess there's two options in how you want to proceed here. You could either, if you so inclined, kind of approve the SPO waiver conditioned upon the applicant addressing any of the comments that Julie and Dr. Clemens have raised, or you could basically hold off on approving the SPO until those comments are addressed. I think it would probably be helpful if maybe Julie went through her comments, and then I don't know, Julie, if you could sort of summarize Dr. Clemens' comments, just so the board can get a sense as to what's there. Yeah.
So, these are, and SPO.
Thank you.
Yeah, do you have them?
I think I
I
no, I
printed,
don't.
I printed a lot out, the one you just sent
The
me.
one that just did?
I have printed those out also, but
Oh, okay.
feel free to.
I don't have
add
these
them to the desk.
actually.
Maybe this one right here.
I'm looking for it.
That's the MVP. This is what you'd say,
No. I don't have that either, Drew.
say,
All three of it, this is a, here. No, the waiver, sorry, I don't have that.
Thank you, Julie.
No, Mike, I think I just printed enough out for the board. Do you have extra, Julie, just in case? I'll take
do
whatever.
you have?
I have, so if you want to give
Do
mine,
Thanks.
give mine to Mike, it's fine.
You can always have mine at the end if you need to make copies.
Yeah, no worries, I have it on the computer, so it's fine.
No, it's my last one, so. So, as we discussed, they show work in the SPO in the lot line revision area, but that work hasn't been evaluated under secret yet, so they'll have to highlight it or label it or delete it from the plans to say, doing work there isn't covered under this approval. You have to stick with what was already evaluated under seeker on the existing golf course property. That was one of the big ones. They show proposed disturbance in the floodplain, so they'll have to go through the requirements of Chapter 67 flood damage prevention and get the flood development permit from the building inspector. And there's work within the stream protection corridor overlay, the SEO. They just have to make sure that they meet all the requirements of 121.14. So regarding,
What are those requirements?
you just have to say that you're not going to degrade the stream and
Okay.
there's some other,
We're restoring the stream, right?
yes. It's what you tell me.
From a procedural standpoint, what's the procedure that we gotta follow for that?
For doing the work in the stream.
No, yeah, for that permit that you mentioned, that's with the building inspector or?
The floodplain is with the building inspector.
So we will submit that to the building inspector,
That's just the cut fill analysis, Pedro. We did that already. We have it from the first time we submitted it, so I think it's just a matter of reissuing it.
Okay.
We do not have a negative impact on the floodplain. We can provide that.
So, yeah,
I just think it's good for the planning board and someone like me who doesn't know much.
Yes.
right, yes,
It-
yes, you have
it's-
to prove that the disturbance within the floodplain won't have a negative impact on the floodplain and the amount of storage during flood events, that there won't be any impacts to upstream or downstream neighbors.
But we would not be doing work on the first two ponds, so we're excluding some of that area at this time anyhow.
Right, so
Yes.
the other work shouldn't, it's just
Yes.
going through the paperwork, it should just be a matter of procedure. For the SWIP, we have the DEC letter of acknowledgement of the notice of intent from September, which I believe covered the first 5 holes. So with the additional work to do the entire 18 holes, if the updated SWIP's been submitted to DEC and if they've acknowledged it,
We have that, yes.
then to get copies of that.
Should I send it to David?
Yeah, you can send it to Larissa and she
Okay.
We actually have to do a termination, right?
Yes,
And then they issue the permit.
yes.
Oh, that's okay. So if you can send copies of the notice of termination, and so
Certainly.
our paperwork is up to date.
And then, are we still waiting for the plan maker waiver, or we got that already?
We're waiting to hear from Pat.
For the other one?
Okay, so then, one of the comments is, under the previous NOI with the 5-acre waiver, there's reference to additional documentation, which I don't have, but if you have a new 5-acre waiver, then whatever documentation is included with that. If you can show the buffers, the habitat management buffers and the archaeological buffer, and how they're going to be shown in the field to make sure that construction workers don't stray into the buffers. And then I know you have your Army Corps approval for work in wetland J, but it looks like there's drainage pipes going into the edge of wetland H and pond B. So if you would need Army Corps approvals for that. And then in December 2013, you had approval for the practice area. It looks like now the practice area is shown as larger. So I would like to see an overlay of what was previously approved versus what's currently being requested.
Do you remember that in order to balance the job from the driving range to 18, we ended up adding the car path going up?
And there's additional
Because we
area.
actually pulled off the buffer and we moved off the knoll, so we,
Not at the top.
No, like down towards the south.
oh, okay.
Remember we needed to
Yes.
include that cut?
I know, yeah,
To,
I know what
you
you're talking about.
5-acre waiver to have the, we were taking dirt from the driving range to 18, so that to balance the needs of that question.
But
Because
that's
that's a proposed
the area
cut
that Dr. Clemens is very concerned about, and
He was concerned at the top. We actually moved
No,
it.
he's concerned about the buffer, but we maintain that
We
buffer.
actually moved it back. We had
Okay.
to the buffer.
and then when you show the buffer, it'll be clearer.
Okay.
And so for, so the planning board knows, we put silt fence on all the buffers that require so the contractors know not to go in buffers. We've also demarcated all the DC buffers as well, so the contractors know they can go in there. And we put a safety fence now up on the hill, so to avoid anybody going in there.
Okay, so that'll just have to be shown on the drawings that, there's the orange construction fence or the silt fence along the edges, so that it's in the approved drawings, that it's there. And then some additional comments about, labeling the roads, 44, Route 22, West Lake Amenia Road. The SPO waiver drawings show the proposed subdivision property lines, but at this point for the work that's ongoing, the proposed changes to the lot lines isn't part of this application, so I would take them off just to avoid confusion. Labeling the limits of disturbance line, labeling the floodplain boundary, showing the buffers. There's some grading that creeps over the property line into the Route 44 right-of-way, West Lake Amenia Road,
Where's that?
on SPO G1 and G2, on SPO G4, nope, G7, it goes into the DEC buffer and onto Town of Amenia property. So I'm assuming it just needs to be cleaned up, but if not, then you'll need to get permits. Some additional details and sizing and all that good stuff. And we're looking for design calculations and details for retaining walls that are greater than 4 feet high. 4 feet?
Oh, we do have a retaining wall that is on, I guess, 10 and 2. So they're wall walls.
Yeah, but they're not.
They're not structural.
No.
Yeah, well, the detail in the SPO details looks
They're not
structural.
in SPO one.
Well, in the SPO waiver drawing set, there's 3 retaining wall details at the back. So if they're not part of the golf course work, then you can remove the details.
Where else, we have 2 or no? Where else do we have them?
So.
What do we do?
Take a look at that.
We'll
And-
remove them, because we're not doing any retaining walls for the golf work.
That's fine.
The fill in number 10, the green, he has a boulder wall. It's not structural.
Yeah.
And then the same thing on.
The details
number
must have,
2.
the details probably just followed from the site plan set.
That's fine. So, and then I don't have a copy with me of Dr. Clemens' comments. I know that he was concerned of just making sure we're staying out of the buffers. I know he's concerned about the
Lot line adjustment,
sorry,
the lot line adjustment
right, the
area.
lot line adjustment area, the work for the practice area, but that had been previously approved. But I think being able to show the buffers in relation to the disturbance would be helpful.
Yes, so make sure we're on the same page now, the work that was approved before.
Yes.
We actually, when we did the site plan, we actually pulled away.
Even better.
Yeah, so the only thing we had to go, because we didn't have that cuts there, that's why we went down towards the clubhouse.
I think that pretty much
That's
covers
it.
it. So it's, some more drawing cleanup and labeling and that good stuff.
So as I had said before, I basically saw 2 options here. One is, you could hold off on approving the SPO subject to the applicant satisfying a number of the comments that Julie and Dr. Clemens has raised, or you could approve, the SPO waiver subject to or conditioned upon the applicant satisfying, those comments to Julie and Dr. Clemens or the board's satisfaction.
Well, I mean, you're just mostly cleanup stuff that you're saying, right?
Right. It'll take
It's
them some
not-
time to go through it and address it all.
Right. And then Mike Clemens' comment is more, it's already been approved, a lot of those issues.
Some of the issues, yes. Yeah, and there's a lot of overlap between your
Right.
comments and his comments.
So if you're so inclined to approve it conditioned upon that, then the resolution that I prepared actually has a number of other conditions in it that we'll need to go through and talk about. So if you want to do that, we can do
Does
that.
everybody feel that's the way to go here? You all feel comfortable with that?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. I do have some concern that I spoke with Norm regarding the bonding that I think we had spoken about. We did a lot of review on this, and we spent 6 years doing seeker. And when we went through all of this, it was never required for us to place a bond for the golf course. It was also never required for us to put a performance bond for infrastructure work, given that the roads were private. If you read the FEIS, it states pretty clear that the only thing the applicant will be required to do would be to put a reclamation bonds on roads and a performance bonds on anything that will be dedicated for public benefits, such as the wastewater treatment plant, which was a concern from the board in the past. We're prepared to meet those requirements. The only additional reclamation bond that was required was for the hotel, given the sheer size of it and the fear from the public that we would abandon a big hotel. But for now, to come in and require us to put a bond on golf course work, we think, we believe is, first of all, it's extremely expensive for us. And, in speaking with Norm, I think his main concern was, Delaware Hill. That work will be completed in the next 4 weeks, all the earthwork, and we'll be seeding that area the month thereafter. So for us to go put a bond just to do that is just, for us, makes no sense.
I'm confused. Could you just tell me what aspect of what we're dealing with you're speaking to? We're talking about resolution.
So it happens to be that we've been having meetings with the consultants and Norm Fontaine, and which have been really helpful clarifying some issues. And it was brought to our attention 3 weeks ago that there might be the possibility that we would have to post a reclamation bond for the golf course. We ended up doing a lot of research, and this was something that was negotiated at length with both Mike Hayes and Dan Leary, our attorney at that time. And there's nothing that requires us to do it. There's provisions in zoning that allows the board, it says you may require us to do it, but there's nothing that requires itself. We spent 6 years negotiating this in the past during the whole secret process, and now when we go build a golf course, suddenly we have to put a reclamation bond. And we just feel that the cost isn't necessary. And you know, if the fear, like I was speaking with Norm this morning, if the fear was Delaware Hill, which is pretty visible from up there, that whole area will be reestablished in the next 2 months.
This is an issue that the planning board has to make a decision on. It's one of the proposed conditions in here. Norm and I had a meeting with Pedro where we said that the reclamation bond may be a possibility, but it's a decision for the planning board. I'll read you a section of your zoning code, which basically says the planning board may, in connection with a major project, require an applicant to furnish an irrevocable letter of credit, certified check, or other form of security to guarantee reclamation of areas to be excavated or graded if the project is abandoned. Such a security shall be an amount reasonably related to the potential cost of such reclamation and shall be in a form acceptable to the town attorney. So the purpose of the reclamation bond is, you know, if they've got big cuts and fills and piles of dirt and they decide to walk away because, you know, the project is no longer viable for them, the town now has a half-finished site in the SPO, and you need to have some money available to basically go and regrade it and hydroseed it. And, you know, so the way that typically works is that the engineers come up with an estimate. If it's phased, if the excavation is phased, the bond doesn't have to cover the whole site, it covers just that phase, and maybe the bond floats from phase to phase. There's financial ways of dealing with that type of a situation. You know, but Pedro is making his case for why he doesn't feel that reclamation bond is necessary. And it's up to you guys to decide whether or not you think it's appropriate or not. If not, we can take this condition out. If it is, we can leave the condition in.
And one of our things is, look, you know, we've owned the property for 15 years. We've proven that we've always done things right there. We've taken our time to hire the best consultants always. I think you know, we're funding this ourselves. It's not like we're a person that is overly leveraged and looking for banks and in trouble doing this. And if you know, if we start asking every single applicant that now you're doing some cuts and fills, that now you have to start placing bonds. You know, it would be like asking the person who built a house in '83 to place a bond. He actually disturbed us much, or if not more, than what we're doing. And you know, if someone building a polo field, then someone has to place a bond. I understand, you know, the concern with, for example, the roads, and that's something that we acknowledge, especially the roads along the mountain, the single-family home. And that's something we acknowledge, and we conceded, yes, you know, if something was to happen, we're talking about a lot bigger numbers, and, you know, it should be reclaimed, and we're the first ones to say yes, but for us to do it just on earthwork we're doing around the golf course, we think it's egregious.
And once again, we're only talking about where you're working right now.
The
Which
golf
you're
only.
gonna be done in about a month, and then you're seeding it, and then
Correct.
it'll be back to green again in a month after that.
Correct.
And they get the money back if they don't meet it.
Yeah, when the project is done, you get the money back, you know. But just keep in mind, though, that you guys have approved 2 SPO waivers already, so there's work that's ongoing out there. And this SPO waiver that's being considered is the bulk of the golf course site. So the reclamation bond that we had discussed would basically cover all of that work. And again, like I said before, it can be phased to sort of kind of reduce the cost of the bond and those kinds of things.
So why is he saying 4 weeks when you're saying the whole golf course?
The work that they're doing right now will be done in 4 weeks, but if you issue this SPO waiver, you're giving them the right to do the vast majority of the golf course work, which hasn't been started yet.
So do you see that as more than 4 weeks?
No, so when I spoke to Norm, his main concern was Delaware Hill. If you actually look at the SPO, the majority of the SPO you can't see from Delaware Hill. And the majority of the work that was within the SPO has been done already. So the main concern of his was, look, you're doing major cuts around Delaware Hill, and that's what people have been asking about. So I said, with regards to Delaware Hill, we'll be done there in 4 weeks, doing the earthwork, and then probably another month and a half to do all the seeding and grading and seeding.
And you've already been doing this.
Correct. We have permits for that.
Right.
So now for us to
You've already
place a
been doing it
bond,
without a bond already.
now to place a bond and wait a whole year or maybe potentially 2 years, we have that money locked in a bank account plus paying interest on that. It just seems extremely egregious.
What is a bond anyway? How much?
There's different kinds of security. You got letters of credit, it could be cash, it could be certified check. I mean, it's really going to depend upon the town board and the town attorney feels an appropriate level of security. That's not really, I think, for you folks to decide. The question is, do you think a reclamation bond is appropriate or not, given the work that you're authorizing under this resolution?
I'm sorry, I just want clarification of a simple issue. How long could this work take that we're talking about the bond for?
The golf course, so this year we're going to be doing roughly, the goal is to do 8 holes. We start at 5 on the driving range. So those will be done by August, seeded and done by August. We'll probably do the earthwork for 3 more with the goal of seeding those in the spring next year. And the balance of the golf course then in spring next year.
And the DEC permit has restrictions on how much land we can disturb and how every area has to be treated. Once you stop working on it for an extended amount of time, you close it up, so.
Which we've been doing.
Which they've been doing and following, and there's inspections going on twice a week, so everything's been in conformance with the requirements.
Does the floating bond or the phased bond seem like a compromise to you guys? I mean,
The problem is you're still stuck in substantial amount of money that you have to lock and not do anything with it. Plus, you're paying interest on that money. Even if we do a letter of credit, you're still charging you 1% on that money.
I will say that this is relatively common in most towns. If we're going to be opening up land, in order for the town to have money to go back in and seed it, stabilize it again. And it's more than just in being in the scenic protection overlay. There's also a lot of habitat around, and if you just leave it open for an extended amount of time while you're not using it, you can degrade the habitat. And if something were to happen and, nobody's out there every day and keeping track of it, damage can happen, and sometimes it's hard to undo it later on. So it's not unusual for a town to ask for it, and certainly when it's divided up amongst whatever active work is going on, it shouldn't be an unreasonable amount of money, and it's an amount that has to be figured out, but it's not unusual to do for the town to be able to protect itself, its own community.
I mean, the way that it works is that if you decide you want a bond, the applicant's engineer will come up with an estimate, what the bond amount would be, sent to Julie. Julie will confirm that is an accurate estimate and make whatever changes, if any, that she feels is necessary, and that would be it.
Yeah, but, as far as people listening to this too, now, let's say they don't finish the project or they stop it. How do we go on that property without excavators and start reseeding with the bonds? I mean, are we allowed to go on somebody else's property and start really doing this?
What, fixing what they left
They
off?
left, let's say they leave it like everybody's saying hypothetically, they're gonna leave it, they're not gonna finish it. Can we really go there the next day, or what is it, a court battle, and you have to go in, you have to have a procedure, and you have to go to bankrupt? How does that whole thing really, if people are really out there right now listening to this, how does that whole thing work, lawyer-wise?
Well, if they walk away from the project, then you would basically call the bond, the money would be there, you would have access to it.
Can you allow to go on their property?
And then,
and
you know,
start
because it's
doing
private
it?
property, you would need to have, you know, an easement right, or the right in the bond to go on their property, to basically reclaim it. And then, as I said, to smooth it out and hydroseed it. And that's why that provision is in your law.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if it wasn't in your law, the issue wouldn't be brought up, you know? So, like I said, it's a decision for you guys to make.
Yeah. I mean, my first round with this project, I mean, I remember the hotel and the roads like he's saying, but that was a bigger, kind of more impact for the town, you know, because it was a 300-room hotel and, you know, the whole
Correct,
thing.
and
there
it
was
wasn't
really,
required, it wasn't required in secret. We went through 6 years of approval process. And
Yeah, but
it was
just because-
never required, it was never, and we discussed this with, and negotiated this with the town's attorney, the planning board, and the. and
Well,
the-
no, I was there, I know.
Correct, and it was never required, it was required for the roads, it was required for the, you know, the work that was gonna be done, for example, on
We
the,
went round and round with this for a while.
correct, it was required for the area that was gonna be done, for example, on the, because there's some clearing that's gonna be done with regards to the state lots. And it was required for the hotel, but it was never required for the golf course.
It's been a long, lengthy process of talking it out with us.
Just because it wasn't in the secret documents doesn't mean that, you know, it can't be required by the planning board now. This is the site plan subdivision phase. The law, you know, says that the planning board may do it. So I understand that you guys had a lot of discussions about it, but
Right.
it doesn't mean that you can't impose a bond. Your law gives you the right to do that.
Right.
And like I said, so you guys have to weigh and balance the risks of this to the town and, you know, hear what Pedro has to say and you know, make your decision. I'm not advocating one way or the other. I'm telling you,
Right, that's what I
these are the options that you
Right.
have, and you guys make that decision.
Our concern is, you know, we've given a tremendous amount that most developers will never think about doing. We're going way overboard with regards to anything that has to do with the environmental side, from the habitat management plan, from the, you know, pesticide management plan, to the east of Hudson standards, which is not required. All those things have a huge cost associated with it. The amount of money that was spent in planning, work that has to be done, it towers up as we move. I would rather, you know, costs associated with that, put it to something more productive. Do it for the town, do something else. We keep on putting money and wasting money on things that are completely irrelevant. You know, what happens if there's an earthquake? What happens if this, you know, if something happens? You know, what happens if we're gonna walk away? We've been here 15 years. I think if someone has proof that we've been here after the economy collapsed and we're still here, we could have walked away from this a long time ago. You know, sold it to, you know, Toll Brothers, who would have built, you know, regular housing around there and there's no golf course and nothing. So it's just, for us is, you know, we're willing to help the town, we want to help the town, we want to do everything that is right, but we want to make sure that, you know, that we don't just waste money on things that we think are completely irrelevant.
Yeah, I see that point in
Yeah,
terms of,
I mean, go ahead.
yeah, in terms of the amount of years that have been put into this project, the effort, the money, the dedication. So I do see Pedro's view on that and in his position, and I think that for my personal opinion.
I mean, you do make a good point, but we are also here to protect the town's interest. But without me knowing what that number is, it's kind of hard to make that decision. So I would almost be inclined I would almost be inclined to say, I'm fine with, I know you're gonna finish what's going on up there now, so I'm not even worried about that, because we're talking about a month and then you're seeding. But maybe looking forward, we might have to look at certain aspects of the construction going out there, maybe consider, but since I have no idea what that number is.
So I called Ian Holback, what's his name, with the mining?
Yeah.
And I asked him what's, you know, how much does he have to pay for reclamation of his land? It's different, I don't know if it's different, but he's doing, you know, mining, but he was paying $6,200 an acre. If we're doing, for example, we have one phase that we have open is 40 acres, it's $240,000. It's big numbers. We're talking, you know, we're doing 150 acres is the whole development of the golf course.
Wow.
So that's why, no, I understand, but you have, you know, now, even if we were just doing phase one that we're doing right now, just on 10 and 18, that's 40 acres. That's $240,000 that has to sit in an account, doing nothing, and we're paying interest on it.
Mm-hmm. That's about 1% of the total project cost and all, right? I mean,
Excuse me?
is 240,000 is about, we're less than 1% of the overall project,
Cost of the project?
the cost of the project.
I don't know.
It's like a 3 or,
240
but
in my mind is excessive, because you could regrade that area in a week and a half and have a hydro seeder out there for another 4 or 5 days.
Well, I think the number that you're basing it off of is not comparing to what you're
Yeah, I
doing.
don't know what the number is, it's just I call someone who's, you know, doing
Right,
my,
so-
I have no idea.
So in other towns, what they've done is the applicant's engineer will put together a number based upon how many acres are open, how much, you know, if it'll take a day or two for somebody to go in, knock down any piles, fill in any holes, and then hydroseed. So they come up with a number so that if the worst happens and the town then does have to pay for a guy, you know, an excavator to come in and smooth it out and hydroseed it, then the town has the money to do it, and it's not either left open or they have to try and find the money from somewhere else. So it's not, it should reflect pretty accurately the cost of what it would cost to do the work to stabilize the area. I think what Ian Holbach's talking about more with the mining reclamation, that's a different scenario. But, you know, if Amanda can put together the numbers, knowing how much area is open at one time and what it would take to close it back up again, then we would have a better idea of the amount.
If it's gonna happen in 4 weeks, it's gonna be all done, I mean.
But then they're
that's,
gonna move on to another phase where they're
Right.
gonna open up
Right.
so many acres and keep working, and then they'll close that and then move on to another phase and open it up and keep working.
And, and this resolution is approved in all phases?
13 holes.
All of it.
Which would never all be open at once. We'll all be done in little sections.
Yeah.
So we have the same conversation a month, about 4 weeks from now, that
Yeah,
will
yeah.
be closed up.
By the way, so you know the process that we follow is, the DEC requires us to have any area that is not disturbed for more than 21 days, we gotta cover up with hay and seed. Any area that is not disturbed for more than 7 days, we gotta hay. We're actually even haying when we're not requiring, let's say every time we see a storm coming, we've been haying to ensure that we don't get any silt or any water into the stuff. So we're doing this on a daily, on a daily basis.
They've certainly implemented above and beyond anything that the plans had called for as far as erosion control, because they're really taking into consideration all of the field conditions.
Yeah, I drove.
And with the amount of rain that we've had recently, they've done a superb job, because there's no
Historic.
contamination downstream. And each of the water bodies are protected with the double row of silt fence as required. So they are meeting all of the finding statement requirements as far as stormwater management.
Looks juicy, that's about it. It looks juicy, I guess.
Should we just take a straw poll right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's easier.
So, we're just thinking maybe we just take a straw poll right now on how we feel, if we say
Sure.
yes on bond or no on bond.
Well, I guess my concern would be that if the economy does tank or something happens, and I mean, it's so hard to predict what could happen in the future. It just seems like the phasing approach, so you don't have, you know, $1 million tied up plus the 1% interest. You know, if it was like, if you could do that, or if we could figure out the phasing approach, and you could just take 40 acres at a time, or whatever you have open, so that way,
We
if
are
something
facing,
did happen, that, you know, the watershed and all of that was at least protected.
we are required to face it from DEC. We're not allowed to go open up everything. We actually, if you look at the stormwater, the erosion control plan, the erosion control plan calls for the areas that we can work with. And what we've done is, other than the driving range and 18, because we're taking the dirt from 18 down, from the driving range to 18, the majority of the other areas we're working on are 10 acres, 5 acres. We're not allowed to just go open everything. So even, even on a workload, the way we're actually deploying, it's not the whole thing at once.
So then it just seems like the phasing, like a floating bond makes perfect sense, right? I mean, rather than having to tie up, as a just-in-case sort of fund in case.
It's still a substantial amount.
Yeah.
I would rather take that money and donate it to the town, give it to Weaver. It is a sin, though, we're taking that money and give it to bankers and other people who do not live here.
But you get it back, right? It's not.
I still have the cost of money tied up, and I still have to pay interest on that money for whoever's providing the bond.
You can do a cash bond.
Yes, yeah, or you could do a cash bond that only the cost of that money tied up.
Right.
So, it's just, it adds up.
Yeah, I understand. But I think, as the planning board's priority is to protect the community, and, who knows what could happen. It's just so hard to predict what the economy will do, or, I just think as a precautionary measure to have some sum of money on reserve just in case something happens, to protect the watershed or to protect the view shed, or it's just so hard to know what might happen.
And I get where you're coming from, Pedro. Believe me, you guys have gone above and beyond. And you've been here through the rough times. And it's hard for me to make this call since I don't know what that number could potentially be, or if it's even something that we all discuss. Maybe we negotiate a number that we feel comfortable with. But without me knowing what that number is as a starting point, it's tough for me to make that call.
So
Tonight.
Can we work on that, can we put the point aside and work on that with Julie and figure out a number, and then next meeting discuss it with the planning board?
Yeah,
That's good, I think.
yeah.
Definitely compromise.
Yeah. Because believe me, I get 100% where you're coming from, and you guys have been really good. But protecting the town's interests, that's what we're here for. Not so much, and not to say that the town mean or anything, but what's coming out of your pocket, which I'm very concerned about because we have to balance that too. But Lord forbid something does happen. We would have to have something there for, somebody to start working on and stuff. So I think that's something we can talk about. I'd like to know what that starting point is, and then possibly negotiate it from there.
Okay.
So.
It seems like $1,000 an acre might be more reasonable than $6. I mean, to hydro seed, to grade and hydro seed, it's not. I mean, it's just sort of. $6 sounds like a lot, and like Julie said, a mining reclamation, I'm sure, is a lot more intensive than, putting up silt fence or hydro seeding or grading out a little bit or knocking down piles. But I think we should revisit it.
We'll have Amanda work with Julie, and then
Yeah.
we'll discuss it on the next planning board meeting.
Well, are all the other members of the planning board okay with that approach? I mean, I've heard from three members.
Are we talking about changing the wording slightly, or sort of making 6 conditional on this process?
Yeah, it depends on what the majority, right now I haven't heard from a majority of the board, so it depends on what the majority, if the majority wants to do what Peter suggested, then number 6 will be changed, and it'll basically read something to the effect of that the planning board, may decide or will decide, whether or not a reclamation bond will be necessary, something to that effect, and you can come back and talk about it at the next meeting. But if the majority says you don't want a bond, then they'll take it out.
Once we have that information, then we can make that decision
So that's fine.
altogether. So.
Okay, I'm just trying to get a consensus of the board here as to where you guys want to head with
Is
this.
that the consensus then? We'll go ahead, we'll wait till the next meeting so we hear what those numbers are, and then there's any thoughts or negotiation we feel is necessary?
Yeah, my position I think is going to stay kind of, they've been around for so long, and for my position, been around so long, I think the trust is there that, the job is going to get done.
Yeah, mine too.
I think it's there, so my position is pretty done.
So me, Nathan, and Roy, I mean, me, Nathan, and Roy, huh?
It's like a band.
So, but it sounds like the majority of the board then says, let's see what the numbers are, and then we'll make that determination?
Yeah, it looks that way.
Okay.
Okay. So I'll change that condition. It'll basically be something to the effect of that the planning board will decide, you know, whether or not to require a reclamation bond.
Okay.
So then the other,
Is this gonna stop them from doing what they're doing now?
no.
Or you're still gonna be able to
No,
do
no,
what
no,
they're
no,
doing?
no.
Okay. Okay, I just wanna make sure we're not stopping
Yep, no.
anybody in their tracks here, so.
Okay, so the other conditions that are on here, I just want to go over with you, just to make sure that you agree with them. If you don't agree with them, we can take them out. So the first condition is that before conducting any work within the 100-year floodplain, the applicant has to obtain a floodplain development permit from the building inspector under Chapter 67. The second one is, before conducting any work, the applicant shall submit an erosion sediment control plan for that work to the board's engineer for review and approval.
That was
And-
submitted.
So Julie will need to look at it, I guess.
Yes, but for this meeting, I was focused more on the SPO drawings themselves, where the golf course drawings, you sent them to me, but I don't know if you submitted them to the planning board. I mean, I was using them as a reference going through the SPO drawings.
John has a copy, definitely.
Anyway, I think that the crux is that Julie needs to still look at the SWIP issues and make sure she's comfortable with it, right? Is that what
Correct.
you-
Right, and
Is there any-
we talked about you submitting additional information to DEC and getting their approval back and all that good stuff. Right, but getting it to me.
So that's that one. Number 3 is before conducting any work, if any, within 50 feet of the brook, protected stream, the applicant shall obtain a stream disturbance permit from DEC if required. The next one is before conducting any work authorized by the waiver, the applicant should submit a construction phasing plan to the board's engineer for approval. Okay. Number 5 is the resolution does not authorize any work in the SPO located on land owned by Hudson Valley Landfill Corp. As a result, no such work shall occur in the SPO on this land until an amended secret findings, amended SUP, and the amended Master Development Plan approval have been approved by the planning board. And then the last 2 are, before conducting any work in the SPO, the applicant shall satisfy all the comments raised by the board's engineer in the memo dated May 15th to the satisfaction of the board's engineer. And number 8 is a similar thing for Dr. Clemens' memo. So those are the suggested conditions. You guys can, add or subtract or whatever you feel is appropriate.
One quick comment, David,
Yeah.
on the last bullet point, on Dr. Clemens.
Yeah.
Just from a legal standpoint of view, he reads, if I believe what you said is we gotta satisfy his comments. Some of his comments were reflecting on jobs, the work that's already been approved. So if you read his conclusive paragraph, he talks about the work that is being done at the
His
driving
only
range,
concern, right, was the driving range.
which was approved already.
Right.
So
Which
how do
he
we-
probably wasn't aware of that.
How do we comply with your?
Well, the board's already
condition?
approved that work.
Okay.
His last paragraph says he's basically okay with everything except the
Yeah.
one driving.
Which has already been approved by the board.
I just want to make sure from a legal standpoint of view, someone
Yeah.
doesn't read that and read it as we're violating that, because you're right, it reads as we gotta comply with all of his comments.
Well, how about, the other option is that we could basically make it to the satisfaction of the planning board. So the planning board would determine which of Mr. Clemens'
There we go.
comments would be, need to be satisfied.
Right.
I mean, then, we could have Michael come and he could sort of weigh in on that. I mean, that's another option, so you guys want to consider that?
Yeah, I would do that.
I think also it's important to know that when you're talking about conditions, if they've already been met, then they're conditions that have been met.
Right, so presumably you'll write a response letter to all of the comments. And so the response letter to Dr. Clemens' comments would be, this work was already approved previously. And then
Yeah.
that's how I would approach it.
So I changed that condition just to say to the satisfaction of the planning board, okay? If that's what you guys want to do.
Okay,
Right.
sure.
Okay. So those are the conditions, and then if you guys are so inclined, you know, I would suggest you just read the resolve clauses. They've got some findings there regarding the SPO waiver, which are very similar, to, if not identical, to the findings that you've issued in the past. You know, basically the gist of the findings is that they've got an existing golf course, they're doing renovation work, and when they're done, it's going to be, you know, a continuation of a golf course. So it's sort of, as Norm says, replacing grass with grass.
Mhm.
You know,
Okay, so I need to read these out then?
if you want,
Yeah, yep, so,
I would start out here. Now therefore be it resolved. Go on back.
page 3.
Go back.
Okay, so here.
Yep.
And the rest of,
And those resolve clauses, yeah. Going down here. Since you already read the conditions, you don't.
okay,
We don't.
so I'm gonna start here, and then
Yep.
here.
Yeah.
Because we already did this.
Yeah.
Okay. Now therefore be it resolved that pursuant to section 121-14 1L of the zoning code, the planning board hereby grants a waiver from site plan approval for work in the SPO as described in the plans above, based on the findings set forth below and subject to the following conditions. Be it further resolved that the planning board issues the following findings in the support of this site plan waiver. The proposed renovation work will be conducted entirely within the boundaries of the existing golf course, and the affected areas will remain golf course when completed. The proposed renovation work will not entail clear cutting of trees within the SPO. Number 3, the proposed renovation work will be at least 40 feet below the crest line and will not disturb any tree lines. Number 4, the proposed renovation work will be limited to the existing golf course. The work will be aesthetically compatible with the existing golf course and the surrounding area. Number 5, the proposed renovation work will be temporary in nature, and disturbed areas will be fully restored to green space and open space. Existing green areas along Route 44 or Route 22 will not be eliminated by the work. Number 6, no buildings or structures will be constructed as part of the renovation work, and the work does not entail any clearing for future building sites. Number 7, all soil disturbances work will be conducted pursuant to a stormwater pollution prevention plan in accordance with the New York State Department of DEC, stormwater regulations and standard, and pursuant to New York State DEC oversight. Based on the foregoing, the proposed work will not impair the scenic character of the SPO and does not adversely affect the town's scenic beauty and rural character as protected under the SPO. Number 9, the proposed renovation work of the existing golf course within the SCO will not result in the degradation of the scenic character of the stream and will be aesthetically compatible with existing surroundings. Moreover, the implementation of an approved erosion and sediment control plan will not result in pollution to the stream. No work will be conducted in the bed or immediately adjacent to the stream. Be it further resolved that copy of this resolution shall be filed in the town of Amena's clerk's office within 5 days after its adoption. You want this?
P. Claire,
Yes.
John Stephanopoulos,
Yes.
Nathan Roy,
Yes.
Anthony Robustelli.
Yes.
Bill Kroger.
Yes.
Is that it for Silo?
Nope.
Nope. Temporary tent.
I'm gonna send you a revised version.
Yeah. The last thing I think you guys need to discuss is the applicant has submitted a site plan application for a temporary sales tent to be located up on the Hairpin Turn. And I believe that Julie has reviewed the plans and had some comments on those. George Janes also reviewed the plans because the tent and all the work is within the SPO. And he had some comments, and so I guess I'd ask Julie to go over her comments, and then I think the plan would be to give the applicant any feedback if the board wants any changes to the plans at all. Now's the time to give them the feedback so they can make whatever changes to get the plans in order for you guys to consider them for approval.
Okay, so I'm out of copies for the temporary sales tent, so you'll just have to bear with me. They should have been attached to the pages I passed out.
I've looked
Just
through
before.
it if anybody needs a copy.
Okay. All right, so is everybody familiar with how the site plan looks? Do you guys have a... Okay, so,
And just, everybody is aware that this is the existing driveway for
Yes.
the Miller House, which is located down the drive. We're proposing to utilize the existing driveway and go just for an access road to get to the temporary tent, which I don't have any color. I believe you all have the color copy
Yeah.
Yeah.
of what the actual tent would look like. Basically just an entrance with a conference room, an office, a meeting area, and then a deck area overlooking the site.
That's intense.
We've provided 10 parking spaces in order to accommodate the 3 salespeople that are anticipated, and potentially having 3 people that they're working with and 3 come in, so 10 would be adequate. We also have a portable bathroom, so no water or sewer is needed. We've already discussed with NICEAG the electrical transformer that would be needed, and it would come off the existing pole. We're proposing a pole.
Yes, there'd be a pole near the driveway, it would cross over from the other side of 44.
That is the majority of the work. We understand the limitations of the length of time it can be up.
Was it 6 months or? Yeah.
6 months, something.
Yeah.
So, I received this about a week ago, so my comments aren't extremely detailed, but, do you want to talk about the subdivision code, or we'll talk about that later? Dave?
You can talk about it now, or I can talk about it.
I'll talk about that later. Okay. I'm asking for a limits of disturbance line for how much area is going to be disturbed. Even if it's under an acre, because it's so close to the other work they're doing, it'll still be part of the same larger common plan of development, so they'll have to provide long-term stormwater management for the increase in impervious area. And they show the temporary sediment basin. I don't know if that's just temporary for building of this, or temporary while this is in operation. Similarly for the temporary soil stockpile, will that be there just while they're grading out the driveway, or will it be there the whole time the tent is there? Okay, so
It's a gravel access path, so it's pervious.
only if you're in the DEP watershed. And the tent also impervious. But, so this area would also then take away from or have to be counted into whatever their 5-acre waiver is from DEC. So if they're approved to disturb 10 acres, and this is, I don't know, half an acre, then they can only disturb 9.5 acres on the other side and 10 acres.
So procedural, we would have to include this.
So then you have to revise your golf course SWIP to include this work.
And why is that, since there's a road between the two, why is that?
Because it's not more than a quarter of a mile apart, so it falls under the larger common plan of development.
Is that gonna be a problem for you guys to do that?
Yes,
Okay.
it's more, put up a tent and driveway. That's one of the big ones. Looking for some more erosion and sediment control.
To adjust the permit with the DEC.
Yes. More silt fence here where it's steep. One of my other concerns is, I'm not quite sure how steep this is. We're gonna have a driveway profile along the side, but then guide rail might be needed along here. To show the buffer around this wetland and where that is in relation to where the fiber optic line crosses. Hopefully it's outside. And then one of my questions is, how does this work relate to the public scenic overlook parking lot? Is it disturbing the same area? Will you be able to reuse sort of the site work that you're doing for that parking lot?
We did overlay this road on the proposed so that we're utilizing, that's why the tent is so far out.
Okay.
So that we're utilizing as much disturbed area for future purposes, because it doesn't make sense to disturb these places.
Profile, you'll have to provide at least one handicap parking space and required signage and striping per the building code of the state of New York. Are there going to be any signage either on Route 44 or on the property telling people how to get there? Is there going to be a reclamation plan in case this wraps up before you're ready to build the parking lot or whatever comes next? Some additional site plan details on the thickness of the driveway and so on and so forth. And confirmation from DOT that the existing driveway curb cut is adequate for use for both the office and the temporary sales building. So one of the other items that hopefully Dave can elaborate on a little bit more, but in the subdivision code, it says no building permit or certificate of occupancy, whether permanent or temporary, shall be issued for the erection of any building within a proposed subdivision unless the subdivision has been given final plat approval by the planning board, except that the building inspector, zoning administrator may issue a building permit and a certificate of occupancy for a single building on a tract of land where there is no existing building within the proposed subdivision and where the location of the proposed building is in accordance with the approved preliminary plat. Silo Ridge has provided an application for subdivision, but the preliminary plat has not been approved or accepted by the planning board yet.
So all they need to do is basically submit for a subdivision waiver on that particular issue. That's relatively straightforward.
So that'll have to be taken care of.
That waiver would be included in, whatever final approval you issue. George's not, are you done?
I'm done.
George's not here, so he did send a memo to the board. I can briefly run through you his suggestions. One is he just wanted to know whether or not the portable bathroom, because it seemed to be located out on the side of the Route 44, whether that could be located on the north side of the tent or someplace where it would be less visible from 44. He had a question about whether or not the mound, temporary soil mound, was going to be there permanently. I assume that's not going to be the case, so I just need to respond to that, I guess. He wanted to know whether or not there was the possibility, since it's located in the SPO, to change the color of the membrane. It's shown as, I guess, a white membrane. I don't know whether he had the option of changing it to a different color, but that's what his comment is, more of an earth tone color since it's in the SPO. He said the SPO limits the disturbed area to 30,000 square feet. He thought that your disturbance was pretty close to that. He just wondered whether you could keep it under 30. And then he liked the equestrian fence and hedge concept that you showed quite a bit, and he just wondered whether that would be appropriate here, as opposed to, I guess, there's 6 shade trees showing up there on the side, so I don't know where that would go or what, but that's one of his comments, which you'll probably have to explore with him.
Well, I mean, it's a temporary tent.
temporary so that they can
start
developing.
I think one of George's comments was that this would be a good test case for the hedge and the equestrian fence. So you can put it up and everybody can take a look and see how it works and if they like it, as opposed to buying it for everywhere and then finding out it doesn't quite work out the way you want it to.
Yeah, we have to, I'll have to wait, we'll have to do a landscaping plan. We haven't done a landscaping plan for that area. With regards to the topsoil pile, I mean, we would be grading all of that into
It
the
was just to
system.
show, erosion control, you show where you put your soil, so we're just saying we're gonna put it there while we're moving the
Right.
dirt for the road, that's all.
Okay, it's temporary, because that.
Some of these you have to
But
file.
it's even temporary,
Temporary.
temporary, it's
Yeah.
just doing the driveway, okay. So we can discuss with Discovery whether a
Beige membrane can be used.
beige, I don't think we can do. We've been looking into the tent that was brown, but the cost was way prohibitive. So, I'll talk to Discovery about the horse fence around that area. Originally up there, we were using for screening larger trees because it was a pretty large building there. So I don't know if a hedge at that point would work. But, you know, I'll discuss it with them, see what they think, and then as part of our reply of our comments, we'll put it in there.
Yeah, I think the hope, if it's okay with the planning board, is that Sala could respond to these comments and make whatever changes, if any, they feel are necessary to their plans, so they're in a position for the board to, vote on it at the next meeting. Does that seem fair?
Yeah, we can do all the comments, we can supply them back. I think the majority of the comments from Julie are more technical in nature. I don't think we're gonna be having signs up there. From our discussions with them, we're not even gonna be having a sign on the main gate or the main entrance.
People
There's
who
not
are
gonna be
coming
no
there
sign.
know where they're going.
Yeah. We don't foresee this being something where people are coming in and out. It's really more, once in a while people go in there. So,
Whereas
And it's
other-
by appointment only, it's not just random people
So like
coming
a
in.
tag sale,
Right.
but, we'll discuss, it might be a good idea, so for people to see what a horse fence would look like with a hedge. However, I don't think the horse fence with the hedge will have the mitigation factor you want there versus Delvin Hill. Because in Delvin Hill, all you're really trying to block is buildings that are 250 feet below, so you're trying to cover the roofs and while maintaining the views. I think on the seeker, when we did it before, the previous application, they wanted to block completely the building. And that building was pretty close to the road, so we had pretty tall buildings, pretty tall trees there.
So at the next meeting, if, Julie and George and everybody, feels comfortable, you guys would basically be voting to approve a site plan and an SPO waiver, as well as a subdivision waiver to allow John to issue a building permit for the temporary structure for subdivision approval, final subdivision approval. So those would basically be the 3 things that you'd be voting on.
Sounds good.
Julie, they have to do that, all that for the tent, they have to do a lot of what she was saying about redoing DEC because of the other part of the subdivision?
Yes. Yeah, it's a change to what's been approved by DEC. So it has to be, when they submitted the information to DEC, they didn't include this information, I'm assuming. So DEC needs the opportunity to evaluate it.
You could be able to do that within 2 weeks? Okay.
That was it on my list. If anybody else has anything else you want to talk about, or you guys have anything else you want to bring to the board's attention at this point, or are you good to go?
I think, is the board okay
okay with the visuals being 8 by 11?
I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so, you know, we've sent them electronically to George James, and we'll be waiting for his comments. And we're working diligently on answering the comments that we had received today. We're gonna be reviewing the comments and going from there.
Sounds great.
So we got Julie's comments electronically tonight, or?
Marissa, you'll send everything out tomorrow?
No, she just sent them, so
Right.
I'm gonna send them out when I
You'll
go
send
back.
everything out
Yes,
tomorrow?
I don't know if you've noticed, but I had a lot of work to review for you guys. So I sent out the memo to Larissa for the temporary sales tent and the SPO. So either she can forward it to you or I'll forward it in the morning. And then tomorrow I will issue my memo on the MDP and the site plan.
Is there any way we can receive the memos on Word? Otherwise, we have to retype them.
Yeah, that's fine.
That would be great. If we can do that, that would be very, very
Just for
helpful.
the response letters, we repeat what the response is, and
That way we're also sure that questions are written right.
Okay.
All right, good.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
guys. Appreciate it.
We appreciate it.
Yeah, that's easy.
Wow, you were wrong, you were way.
Yeah, thanks for waiting. You're not running, huh? Okay.
Rich is used to this. Yeah, you ain't
Yeah,
kidding.
that's right.
Pete, can you pass these around, please?
Take one, pass it around.
Let's take one.
We got a lot of paper tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh. Used to come here at night, just do a lot line change. Some juicy stuff.
Those days are gone.
I think that was just televised for Silent Ridge. I don't think, right?
Are you still live?
Good.
All right, good deal.
You're on TV,
Yeah,
man.
reality.
That's good.
You're on channel.
If you're ready, I'll
channel
get-
2.
Send this down to Nathan, this is a copy of the plans, they can see.
Nathan, that's for you.
Oh, thank you.
Spread them out.
Go ahead.
Well set. My name is Rich Renia. I'm the engineer for the project. What we're proposing is putting in 5 cabins at Tamarack Preserve. We were originally instructed to start the process at the town board. I don't know if the planning board is aware of that. There's an existing special permit that was issued to Tamarack prior to the creation of the current zoning. And it was a special permit granted by the town board. So we started there. We've met with them. We've gotten their preliminary okay, and it appears that they've sent us to the planning board. They'd like the planning board to give input, and I believe to look at to handle the seeker process portion of it. And Alan, correct me if I'm not correct on that. So that's why we're here tonight. Now, the project itself includes 5 cabins, as I had said. 4 of the cabins are proposed to be sleeping cabins, and 1 of the cabins is proposed to be a fitness cabin. It's on their existing 800-acre parcel. The proposed disturbance that we've calculated is 2.9 acres, which is approximately, I believe, about 3.6% of the overall site. So it's a very, very small project on that size parcel. We've designed a driveway that comes off of their existing road, Turkey Hollow Road, and the driveway would come off of Turkey Hollow Road prior to reaching where the clubhouse is now. We start at a position where there's an existing log road now, and then we start at that location. We veer off to make the road an acceptable grade for driveways. We did not exceed 12% on the driveway, and we ended up with a driveway that was about 1,250 feet. We've designed it to have the proper widths for fire truck access. We've also designed it for an emergency turnaround that meets New York State Fire Code at the top of the hill. The cabins themselves are placed in a location where there was a natural plateau in the side of the hill that was previously opened up years back. They used to do shooting events in that location. So it was the natural place to place the cabins on the project site. we're over 1 acre of disturbance, so we've prepared a stormwater pollution prevention plan, and we're designing an on-site septic, and we're planning on drilling an on-site well. That well will be a public water supply that will be regulated by the Dutchess County Department of Health as well. I think that pretty much lays out
How
what
many
we're looking
bedrooms
to
in
do.
each, Rich?
There'll be 2, one on each side, basically. So I'll point out in a little bit more detail here. These are this cabin, this cabin, this cabin, and this cabin are proposed sleeping cabins, with the fitness cabin in the middle. So each, when you walk in the center, there'll be a great room, and then there'll be a sleeping room on either side, is basically what it is. And then another door with a patio in the back, so you can walk out.
No kitchens?
No. The clubhouse, which is located here, that'll provide all the food service.
Oh, okay.
And there's no laundry facilities and no kitchens.
How many square feet are the living cabins?
The living cabins are 1,144, and the fitness cabin is 760 square feet.
Do you have any elevation drawings?
There, I can get you that. I do not have that with me. Basically, it's proposed to be a 1-story building. There'll be an overhang canopy in the front where you see the patio areas here and here in the front and the back. The roof will extend, so there'll be a porch area in the front and the back. It'll be a simple peak roof, just a straight gable, and there will be a fireplace in the center at the back. So when you walk in the great room from the front, you'll see a fireplace there.
Are there views, or is it just all surrounded by forest?
Well, there's some view when the leaves are off. It's surrounded by forest, but pretty much when the leaves come on, there's no view.
I wasn't sure how high up it was. I've never been up there, so I've always been curious to know
I
what
would say it's-
Tamarack was like up there.
The overall drainage area on the SWIP shows that there's a lot of mountain behind it, so
Yeah.
I'd say it's roughly nestled into about a third of the way up in that
Uh-huh.
mountain.
Yeah.
So it's actually a nice hidden spot.
Mhm.
They're gonna be like cedar shakes or clapboard siding
Clapboard.
and asphalt shingle roof or metal roof? Or
Asphalt shingle.
In response to something that Sheldon asked, but the location is about 1,000 feet from 44 in terms of this,
How far in it is.
This is the overall 800-acre parcel, and it's down off of Turkey Hollow Road, and it's hidden in there.
Turkey Hollow Road is a private road. One of the conditions that the town owns original acceptance. Used to be a town road, went to a private road.
And you have a large body of water up there as well, right? Is that Tamarack or no?
There's a body of water impounded by a dam,
Yeah.
which is 1.5 miles south of this location,
Oh,
and is actually off of the property that Tamarack Preserve owns. It's well, the impounded part is on there, but the dam itself is on another parcel.
okay. And that's your property with the
So
water on
owned
it?
by Oakley Thorn.
Okay.
The dam and the stream south of that or southeast of that.
But the impounded water comes onto you.
Correct.
Okay.
Are there any other structures on that property that are like this, that for
There
people
are
to sleep?
there are 2 cabins
Oh, okay.
down by the dam. One was built, we think, in the mid-20s. We don't know. There's no plans or anything
Oh, all right.
remaining from that. The other one was put up in the late 90s. It's a log cabin, a kit log cabin, and it has a sleeping loft in it. No power, no water
Oh, okay.
in either of those facilities.
Yeah, because I'm close when it comes to Tamarack Preserve. I have no idea what do you do up there, what goes on. You mentioned there's another building with the kitchen in it, so I'm clueless, so what do you do up there?
It's a chemical research plant, mostly. It is a hunting and fishing club, and the family has, my family has owned the property since the mid-30s, and was used just as a family picnic area, and then was requiring more and more maintenance, and it seemed that myself on vacation days was supposed to do that. Well, it didn't happen, so the place was falling down, and this is why we started the club in '91 and sought a special use permit for hunting and fishing club. We have a 5,500, 5,600 square foot clubhouse with a dining facility. It has a kitchen and a dining room. I think that the occupancy is for 75 or 80 people in the dining room. We have lockers in the basement. We have storage and offices upstairs. There's also a bar area, 2 fireplaces. So it is sort of the nerve center for the hunting and fishing club, and a place that people do come and have meals. Friday lunch and dinner, Saturday lunch and dinner, Sunday lunch.
For your members, you talking
For the
about?
members.
Okay.
All of this approval originally was, pardon me, was based on a membership plan. So as part of it, that we're also hoping to be able to offer some lodging as part of that plan.
Gotcha. Thank you.
It's good.
So what do we have to do at this point?
Well, Julie has to issue comments, right? Or have you already done so?
I issued a extremely brief memo at 6:30. Sorry, I was taking up all of my time. But I will issue a technical memo tomorrow that'll go through more of the site plans in regard to the zoning code.
So she'll issue that memo, then the applicant will have to, review those technical comments and, respond to them as they typically do in any application. I guess I would note for the board that the applicant has requested a number of site plan waivers, which are listed in the materials, so you'll ultimately have to vote on those. The way I understand the application is it's basically you're seeking an amended special use permit as a membership club to add these cabins as an accessory use, right? Okay, so you'd basically be approving an amended special use permit. I just, in interest of full disclosure, I spoke to the applicant's representative this morning because the definition of accessory use in your code requires these cabins to be customary for shooting preserves, and they also have to be incidental and subordinate to the main use. So I just asked them to provide some information showing that, in fact, it is customary for shooting preserves to have lodging units, and that these cabins will be subordinate to the main use. They sent a letter in. Thank you very much for sending that letter in today, showing it, demonstrating that they meet the requirements for an accessory use here. So that fundamental zoning issue is all taken care of, and it shouldn't be an issue. We also had talked about the fire department requesting some pads. I don't know if you guys can talk about that a little bit.
So I met with Fire Chief Chris Howard, and
he was concerned about a water source up on the site, and he came and inspected the site. I suggested that maybe he could utilize water out of the stream that runs through the Wasea Creek. We looked at an existing roadway, which would have to be widened some to access a pump truck, and they would extract water from the stream. It would then pump it level ground pumping to the private road site there, and then a fixed pipe would go from there up to the site, and a third truck would be on the top that would both pull and be able to use the water, and he thought that was an acceptable solution. We haven't had time to put that on a map yet.
We thought that was a good idea.
Yeah.
What that does is it alleviates them from having to physically run a hose.
Yeah.
They can just drag the truck up. Our already be a buried pipe in between, and they can connect here and connect at the top, and it's ready to go for them. in case of emergency. For your reference, the stream is on this side of the road, so this roadway right now goes down to the stream. So it'd just be a matter of widening this out, and we'll expand this to show that.
Said that you were going to try to get an email from him or something?
I didn't get that today, no.
No, okay.
I tried to track him down, but
Oh,
I didn't
okay.
get it
So
today.
you're working on that then?
Yeah.
Okay.
I approached him, yes.
We do have some information that shows that many of the other hunting and fishing clubs in the area do have lodging as part of their operation. Pauling Mountain Club, Mashonack Preserve, 10 Mile River, Dover Furnace, and Clove Valley.
Not many around here, huh?
Yeah.
I didn't realize. They're all tucked away, you know?
So they all provide lodging, and it's an area that we have been lacking in, that has been a problem for us. We think that this may address that.
Some other things, they submitted an ag data statement, which obviously we'll have to take care of mailing that out to comply with that section of the law. It's a major project, so you're going to have to do a public hearing on it. And because it's a major project with an amended special permit, it's going to require a referral to the zoning board for their review and recommendation to you folks. That's basically it from a sort of procedural standpoint. Actually, I did have a question on the map there. It looked like there were some things that were drawn almost like ponds, or I don't know what they were. Maybe they were tree lines. Could you tell us what those things are? No, can we bring it here, like this here? See that there?
Those
This
are rock
here?
outcroppings.
They're rock outcroppings,
Yeah,
okay.
those
Yeah.
are existing rock outcroppings.
Just wanted to make sure they weren't vernal pools, because...
Oh, no. No, actually, the water doesn't stay on that hill. Drains right off.
It'll be really nice to have that amenity for your members, definitely.
It would be a big help.
Yeah.
And this site is not visible off the property.
You really can't see down in there at all.
Very nice.
How many members are there?
That's a good question. I'm gonna take an educated guess and say there's 275-ish full members, which means they have right to the shooting and hunting. And then there's about 145 associate members that are able to shoot clays and to dine. The property is all wooded, except for a little clearing on the east side of the roadway around the buildings. And so the property also is in the 480A Forestry Act, has been since 1981.
Do you have any underground storage tanks proposed as part of the cabins at all, or anything?
How are they going to be heated?
I believe we're talking propane, correct?
Have you gone to the health department yet?
Yes, we have submitted to them.
They're reviewing?
Yeah, I actually reviewed it, generated one comment letter. And one change that we will have, I will let everybody know about. We originally proposed doing 608 gallons per day. They wanted to be a little bit more conservative on that, so we agreed now to come up with that estimate. Now we're at 758, I believe. Basically with it, in essence, what we did was we were starting with 150 gallons per day per cabin, and now we're at 200 gallons per day per cabin. So just a small change on that front.
Can you send us a copy of that letter from DOH?
Oh, sure, certainly.
Okay.
The 200 gallons per day is in an email form, which actually I can give you right now.
Yeah, that's
I
fine.
think I have it in the file.
I'm sure I would give it to Julie.
$768 gallons per day, as opposed to the 608 gallons per day we originally proposed.
Yeah.
I guess what we would ask for next, we feel we've submitted everything we need to submit and that we have a complete application. So we'd like to go ahead, since there's going to be a public hearing, go ahead and schedule that.
Fine.
Do you guys want to wait to see Julie's comments first, or do you want to make the completeness determination subject upon
Her
her
comment?
comments and then their response to those comments?
I'm
Okay.
fine with that. Sure.
When is or what would be the time frame? I guess let's talk about that. I heard some dates you talking about.
Public hearing?
Yeah.
Yeah, it probably wouldn't be in 2 weeks, right? 'Cause we wouldn't- So,
No.
you know,
Is there a meeting in 2 weeks?
There is one on June
Okay.
5th, but that's when you will probably return with the comments back from Julie.
Okay. When do we expect to receive your comments tomorrow? Okay.
So then from there, we can schedule the public hearing if everything's okay. The second meeting of the month, yeah, the third week
Okay.
of June. We'll also be having another public hearing that day. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure. So for the meeting in 2 weeks, can you guys be here with the amended plans that you talked about and responses to Julie's comments and sort of be able to kind of wrap all that up?
Certainly.
If possible? Okay.
Are you shooting to build this year?
We hope to.
Okay.
Yeah. And we feel we lost a little bit of time just because we had started this earlier and got to the town board and or prior to getting there too, there was back and forth of
Right.
how to handle something that was an amended special permit that was issued by the town board prior to, so.
When was that issued?
Do you know the
A
date?
long time ago?
1991.
Really, huh? A long time ago.
We're still trying to find a copy.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, that was my next week. Wait, you still had a copy lying around, huh? So, but we know it was about then, though. All right.
We have a copy, a photocopy of the actual permit itself, but not of any of the resolution. Somewhere that's here in the records,
Yeah.
supposedly, but seems to be elusive.
We'll give you a brand new resolution. How's that sound?
All right, so good.
Okay.
All right?
Thanks, Rich.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Did you want these back, Larissa?
Yes, please.
I'll take that from you.
Or I think just this.
Oh, just have it come.
All right, so we just,
The only other matter is approving the minutes.
Thank you.
Gave everybody.
you know,
You didn't get them.
obviously, we just got the minutes.
You can
You
hold
wanna,
off on
let's
them.
hold,
till
you wanna
June
just
5th.
hold off? So we just got the minutes
Yeah.
for the last 2 meetings, we'll just hold off and wait till the next meeting?
Approve them on June 5th, then?
Yeah.
Just read through them, everybody has a hard copy of them, okay? Thank you.
Is that,
That's it.
is that it?
So,
Looks like it.
Anybody else have any things to talk about? I'll make a motion to dismiss our meeting.
close the meeting. I'd second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All righty.